Hey, Louise here. Check it out. Fabrics, new fabrics, more fabrics, colorful fabrics, every kind of fabric. Just wait until you see what I have for you today. Here are some beautiful fabrics that I got at QuiltCon. We had a fantastic trip. The weather was great. We had to reschedule a little to beat the snow, but we had a fantastic time. And look at what came home with me. Oh, I can't wait to show you all these fabrics and some of the quilts that I saw. What I want to show you is how these fabrics jumped out at me. There were some beautiful quilts on the walls, and the inspiration was amazing. And I say, oh, I want red. And so I got a bunch of reds. And then I saw some pastels. And of course, I saw dots. So let's start at the beginning, and I'm going to show you what we have here. Here's the first booth that really caught my eye, and I love the K-facet fabrics, but particularly how they're blended from the dark and into other colors towards the center. I just thought they were absolutely gorgeous. And look at all these fabrics here, all these 1-yard cuts and bins just filled with fabric. So of course I had to go in and see what they had to offer. Let me show you what it looks like up close. When I got up close to this, I was just really intrigued with how all this color ran together and just looked so beautiful. And this is a booth, shop that I'm familiar with, The Right Fabric. I've bought fabric from them before. They're an online shop, and you can find them at therightfabric.com. But what I loved about this is the alternating blocks. Well, number one, the blocks are on point, which absolutely always makes a beautiful quilt. But look at this. We have a square here, and then we have a 9-patch. So by putting the big prints in the large squares, you can piece the smaller ones and kind of blend it really well. See how all this is just blended together? Oh my goodness, this was just the most gorgeous quilt. So yes, of course I had to pick out some fabric. Let me show you what I came home with. So these are the fabrics that I bought at the Right Fabric shop. And I just want to put these threads away. I also picked up a nice collection of some Aurifil threads. And I really like using them. They're very, very strong, and they come in different weights, but I find these spools last a really long time, and I really like sewing with them. I have far less breakage problems. So this is just something I recently have decided to try. I loved them, and so now I'm there with it. Now we're going to take a look at all this, but check these out. So you saw I mentioned in the corner of the booth there were these bins with all these 1-yard cuts of fabrics, and I love the colors. I went in going for reds. I wanted to look for some red fabrics. And, you know, this just, oh, look at this. Oh, my goodness. The colors are fantastic. And because this had a bit of green here and here, I thought some chartreuse would be good. That would make a wonderful contrast. And do you remember these? Oh my goodness, these are the big, I call them sunflowers. I think that's essentially what they are. And I've used this in so many different quilts, and I was ecstatic to find more of that fabric. And I found a cute little charm pack, and it's all reds. It's the K-facet, just assorted red fabrics, which is going to work perfect. And then look at this. Oh my goodness. Let's see. I think, well, it should say on here how many. So there's 20 half-yard cuts. And, you know, I understand that not everybody likes pre-cuts. The biggest attraction to me about pre-cuts is the variety. And 20 equals 5 yards. And if I were to go and buy 5 1-yard pieces, this is kind of what I'd have, which is great, and that's a good place to go. But you know what? I'd rather have all the different variety of these particular fabrics. And I just love how many different colors there are and the prints, and it's just going to be gorgeous. And I'm probably going to do something similar to the quilt that I just showed you that the shop had on display, because with all these fabrics, it's going to be beautiful. Do you see this? Can you see this up close? I'm going to move in just a little bit closer. There was a bunch of yardage that was available at a different booth. And I don't have that booth, sorry. I'll have to figure out. But this is a new line of fabric. And it's all different patchwork designs. So you can see here, this is flying geese. But they had them in a lot of different patterns and 9 patches and log cabins. And I bought this thinking, how wonderful would this be for a back of a quilt? I really fell in love with this fabric. So we've got the beautiful reds. And just look at these. Oh, since we're up close, let's just take a really close look at these fabrics. Aren't they wonderful? And I love the patterns in here. Oh my goodness. This is going to be fun. All right, let's see what comes next. Well, these are particularly muted colors. When I saw this on the wall, together they just created such a beautiful overall design. The fabric is fantastic, but look at the 60-degree triangles. Do you see what the block is, though? This looks really complicated. And at first I'm going, okay, here's a triangle, but wait, here's another triangle in half. I said, what am I looking at? And then here we go, right here. We go from here around. So what we do is we put a triangle in a square. So we square it up with the narrow triangles on each side. And this is a very common technique, and then you can sew them all straight together. But notice when these 2 blocks come together, you get another triangle, but there's 2 fabrics there. So it really makes it scrappy, and it just all goes together beautifully. And look at that quilting. Oh my goodness. And if you look, you've kind of got the large hexagons, and you could quilt each one individually. Some of these are quilted like in diamonds. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Let me show you some of these fabrics up close. They are so beautiful. These are the Tilda fabrics. Look at how all these just blend together so well. Let's see, I want to open this up a little bit more and see now how many fat quarters are in here. This is 20. So again, this is 5 yards of fabric, which is going to do a lot of quilting for me. Here, let's take this in a bit closer. I just want you to see how pretty these prints are. And so just, you know, kind of leisurely, the lawn chairs, the cats laying in the sun and flowers, very garden-esque, you know. See, we have the garden table out here. And I love just the whole collection of gardens. Now, we have it here in a gray. Here we have it in a turquoise background. And see how the colors change as we go through. And here we have the blue. So this just is going to carry all these wonderful colors all the way through the quilt. Oh, there we are in sort of a gold mustard and some wonderful pinks. Ah, what fun this is going to be. I love this collection. And let's see what the name is. Sunday Brunch. Well, of course, that makes sense. Sunday Brunch by Tilda. So that's definitely a bundle of fabric. I'm going to have fun. This is perfect for spring, isn't it? This is going to be absolutely beautiful. This was incredibly difficult for me to pass up. I absolutely love these colors, and the tealy flowers, you know, the cone flowers, I loved them, and I just thought that this quilt layout is so cool. Actually, I noticed I have this upside down. Sorry. This one's right side up, but this is upside down. It should be flipped the other way because the way this works, and it's the way it's hung up, so I couldn't have changed it. But what I want to show you is you lay this fabric out. Here it is, your selvage to selvage, and this is the length of your fabric. And you buy however long you want your fabric to be. And then you cut it up so that your flowers are at the bottom, and then these colors work their way through. So I'm going to cut lines this way and make blocks this way, space them out, and then put these fun little strip pieces in here. And it's just like this mural right here stays in the background, and then you tuck these wonderful little strip squares in between, and it is just stunning. And then you take the pieces from the outer edges and make a border, so it looks like everything is just running across and into each other, and the colors are spectacular. I love this one. It turned out so pretty the way you take this fabric and create that quilt. Now here's another look. There's the fabric that I was just showing you. And yes, of course, I had to buy the kit. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And I saw all these coordinating fabrics, but look at this one. So this is the same fabric right here as this, but instead of teal, this one's in blue. So it came, and I think there was a third color as well. But look at these gorgeous flowers. Oh my gosh. And piecing them, it's sort of like a Dresden plate with a round center in the middle. What a fantastic quilt idea. But now let me show you these fabrics. And of course, I've got to show you the kit and the pattern. I'm so excited about getting started on this one. And here's the kit that I purchased. The fabric is all designed by Rachel Rossi. And this fabric, as well as the one with the cone flowers, the Dresden plate fabrics, these are all her fabrics. And look at, so the kit comes obviously with a pattern book. You can make it in multiple sizes. It shows you how to put, I don't want to call this a panel. It's just a continuously running print. But look at how wonderful this fabric is. And then you get on the back side and you've got the bright colors. I just think this is fabulous. It's going to be great fun to work with. But I also get, so there was like a couple yards of the fabric for the quilt itself, but then 2 jelly rolls, and one in the blue tones and one in the purple. So these, we have the gold and purple, and then the teal with the blue are going to be the squares, the diagonal squares that are set on corner in order to create that pattern in between. Just going to be wonderful. And check out this. I could make a quilt out of just this fabric. This is the piece that goes around it, makes the borders, and then there's like a little flange sashing that goes around each block. I've never done that before. That's going to be really interesting to see. So what a fantastic find this was. So if you get a chance to check out Rachel Rossi, make sure you look for her fabrics because these are beautiful. And just a quick segue to show you how beautiful the scenery was while visiting. We were near Flagstaff and heading up towards the Grand Canyon. Look at these beautiful red bluffs along the road. Oh, the scenery was gorgeous. But let me show you what we saw when we got there. Here's my husband and I at the Grand Canyon. Oh, I know, we're not so good at pictures. We're kind of tilting, but oh, just look at how gorgeous that is. And then let me show you the next one. This one came out a bit straighter. The color just doesn't even come through on a photograph as how intense it is when you're there. If you ever have the opportunity, definitely check out the Grand Canyon. It should be a must on your bucket list because this was gorgeous. I want to show you the rest of the fabric that I picked up, but I also want to show you this wonderful calendar. I'm sure it's available online, or maybe even at Robert Kaufman Fabric's website. Quilt stores are probably selling it, I'm sure. But these are the 365 colors of Kona Cotton Solids. And what I love is that all these colors are listed in by month. And so as you go through, you see each of the colors throughout. And then every month, there's a quilt pattern as well as a block pattern. And you can go online and download these. But it's just a fantastic calendar. And I love the way you can see all the different colors because it's hard to consider what color you're looking for, but when you can see them all in one place, oh my gosh, it's like being in the paint store, but for fabrics. And the idea of solids, I think, is a lot of fun. They're very popular. And this was a find. I was excited. This is the KC Maker Studio and Fabrics. They create the best bundles of batiks. What I really like about this one is called Live Out Loud. And what I like is all the color in each of the batik fabrics. So when I cut these up and use them in pieces, there's just so much interest in here. And it just creates such fun, and your quilt is just kind of talks across the whole quilt top. There's just a story going on with all the colors and the prints, and I love them. They're a bit on the what I would call a grunge, in that the way it's all sort of modeled together, and you've got some gray areas and lines. It's very graffiti-esque, and I think this is fantastic. So this I will use. The ones I bought last year were a series of greens, and it worked out beautifully. I use them in lots of different quilts. So I don't necessarily take one piece and use the whole thing in a quilt, but I love to use them all together. That's what this one's great for. These two I really am excited about. Of course, you know I love my polka dots, and look at all these wonderful colors. And I'm not even sure who makes them. I have an idea. There's a couple different fabric lines these could be part of. But anyways, I think these are going to be great fun to use. And just look at this against these. See how these colors just stand out, and it pulls all these colors. That would really work great together. It's just fun to see what you could mix up. But always, I love my black and whites. These are some great graphic prints, and I think they are going to be loads of fun to work with. A few dots and some, some what do I want to say, a checkerboard. But I like the things are all a little bit off kilter. And I like that we have, some lines that are wavy and some wonky circles. This will create a great quilt. And, putting this with, whether it be bright dots like this or these kinds of colors, it just stands out and creates some incredible contrast. And this one, I just had to have it. Absolutely no reason whatsoever other than it is absolutely beautiful. I didn't see a quilt made with it. Let's see. This is Tango by Kate Spain. Well, of course, Kate Spain, Moda Fabrics. That's a great option. And there's like a whole bunch of fabrics. Let's see. What does it say on here? I think it's at least 31 pieces, of course. Look at how many there are. But isn't that beautiful? Oh, I can just imagine the quilt that will come together with all these colors. Oh, and it's beautiful springtime fabrics. I mean, between this one and then the Tilda fabrics, there's some great springs. We've got some bright, bold red colors, some funky grunge that's going to make great graffiti look. We've got some bold prints. Oh my gosh, my year is set. But there's one other thing that I saw, and I can't find the picture of it. I'm going to look. But can you see this pillow? Each of these are made with individual petals from fabric. And I bought the pattern because it has everything that I need, and it has a paper template for the petals. But because I know I'm going to want to cut this with my rotary cutter, I went ahead and bought the template as well. I'll put a link below if you think this is something you're interested in. But I am definitely going to do a video making this because I think this is wonderful. Once I cut through some of these fabrics and I have some pieces set aside I can use, I'm going to make some flowers to match the quilts. What a great idea. Imagine the flowers with all these different colors. Oh my, and a polka dot flower. Oh, okay, it just doesn't get better than that. And do that with these in between. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I've got to get going here. I haven't even started cutting fabric, and I'm already, coming up with so many ideas, but that's the exciting part of it. And I know we've gone on a ways. We've got a lot here to share. I hope you enjoyed this. But now I want you to see some beautiful quilts. I don't have all of them, but I took some pictures of favorites that I wanted to show you, and some that I thought would be, you know, inspirational, that it's not overly complicated, but just to show you some ideas of some quilts that you can make yourself. So sit back and relax. I'm going to show you some beautiful quilts. Here are a couple really colorful quilts. You'll notice this one here is all done in half square triangles, but it's done on point. You see how those are going diagonally from corner to corner? This one is a larger triangle, and then it's squared off. Remember, we looked at the tilde pattern with the tilde fabric, and it's the same kind of a pattern, and just row after row, and just really looks pretty. On both of these, I really like the colors. Bright colors all over the entire quilt, and there's a lot of reverse color with a light in the back, go from front to back, and I think it looks really pretty. And here's another pair using lots of half square triangles, and you can see this one, these are actually the hourglass. Do you see each of these blocks is an hourglass? And by carrying, you know, the background colors, we have blues here, very dark greens and grays and into pinks. It really changes the colors throughout the quilt and looks wonderful. And they kept the darker colors to that outer edge so it's bright in the middle, and that's always a fun way to guide your eye to the center of the quilt. Now here we have half square triangles going in diagonal lines. What I think looks really neat in here are these black centers. There's a multitude of different black fabrics used in here, and it makes it look almost dimensional, like it's a 3D block sitting on top of there. And they're beautiful quilts. I love it. Simple half square triangles. That's all you need here. This pair of abstract quilts have a very different method of creating color. This one looks like it may be applique, but this could also be done by machine, doing circles with machine piecing, and of course then all the surface quilting. This looks like we have a lot of rectangles, squares, blocks that have a narrow strip sewn at various points throughout the piece, and they're going in multiple different directions. But notice that all these strips seem to be the same size. They're probably a 1/2 inch by, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches, and it just sort of repeats throughout the quilt, but it just makes it really interesting. The fact that the number of stripes down here, these strips there's more of them. There's a larger quantity where they kind of thin out to the top. So that could just be, you know, somebody's interpretation of the color and how they see whatever it was they were looking at. And this to me looks like someone who was having fun with flowers, and you know, I love the circle quilting and the echo quilting. And that, oh, and look at, there's circle quilting throughout the back. See all these little circles in there? Ooh, that's pretty fun. Here are a couple flowers that are incredibly different, but yet both are bright and very striking. Very similar colors too. And this one is done with strips, done in a braid layout where they, you know, go back and forth across the center of the petals. And then look at all this piecework in here, and the shading is really pretty. The background is interesting with, you know, I can't tell if these are narrow strips or satin stitching. I'm guessing they're probably narrow strips. But also look, see the hand quilting in here? Oh, that's a lot of fine detail. That's really pretty. This one is far more modern and definitely abstract, and the solid colors really bring that modern effect out. And then of course all the quilting in there. We have the curved quilting, and then in here in more of a background we have the straight quilting, and really beautiful, both of them so very different, but the colors are gorgeous. I find it interesting they have such a lot of pink and blue in each of these. These are a lot of fun, and it's just the repetition of a single block. These are all little 4 patches, and you can see this one, and they run, you know, in laterally. They go this way or they go this way, and there are solids in between. The solids tend to be a more muted color, so they sort of create the background, but there are also some lighter 4 patches that kind of fall in that too. So there's a lot going on, plus it's on point. So we have the diagonal rows going from corner to corner. And it's a busy quilt with a lot of color, but I like it. And I think what really helps to tie it all together are these dark, on the 4 patches, how those common colors go across these rows, and it sort of adds some extra pattern and ties it all together. I think that's really pretty. What a fun quilt that would be. This one, do you see all the hourglasses in here? And what I found really intriguing is you're looking at this, and then they reverse the colors, and then they reverse it back, so that you're creating a lot more interest, but you're using basically, you know, the same block. If you were to turn these blocks 90 degrees, they'd be the same as these. By turning it around and joining them that way, you get the opposite pattern, and it just creates a lot of interest throughout the entire quilt. Lots of contrast that really makes both of these stand out. Here are a couple fun ways to use some really bright, bold colors. This particular layout has the colors, you know, in a rainbow fashion. They're in a rainbow color so that it goes around the color wheel and sort of fades out to the edges in a lighter fabric. Same color, but light. And you see how they get darker as it goes into the center. That's really fun. That's a fussy quilt to put together, but then look at this, the circle quilting. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I love it. Now here again, we've got the bright colors, a lot of similar colors that are in here, but they're sewn together into strips. And simply creating different lengths of strips and contrasting colors and piecing them together, it looks wonderful. Of course, the beauty here too is by using different widths, you don't have matching seams, so that goes together much quicker than this one over here would. I really enjoy these. Both of them have very similar, if not the same, Southwest color schemes. But this one is very geometric, and you can see how these were probably pieced in larger sections and then cut into smaller pieces to make the diamonds. But look at how they fit in the background. Oh my goodness, that's so pretty. And you could do so much with that. You've got the dominant diamonds in the front, and then you've got the background, and then it gets even lighter as you go out towards the edges. That would be a really fun challenge. This one, I just love all the bits and pieces, and there's a little story here, and we have trees. It's a village, and we see figures that are, you know, I'm guessing the folks in the little community, and we've got some flowers, and it's just a fun depiction of a little community. But again, these colors I think are wonderful. Southwest colors are something I've not used a lot of, but when I see them, I surely do like them. Now this one very definitely has a Southwest feel, both in the pattern that's used, the quilt block, but also the colors. They're very neutral, and I think it's so pretty. And look at the quilting pattern, you know, that sort of a zigzag, bit irregular. It just works beautifully with that. I like this color scheme. Far more neutral than something I would normally do, but it looks great. And I like how these little squares, the half square triangles, we get just the little ones on the ends. I just think that's a nice finish along the edge. This one Honestly, I thought it was windows. I didn't know what I was looking at. And then I read, and these are totem poles. And I thought, what a neat idea. And I love all the different patterns used in here and all the different geometric blocks. You know, you get your half square triangles, lots of that. You have strips, wide and narrow. Some are wonky, some are, you know, nice and straight. And it just sort of creates so much interest. Everywhere you look, there's something to see. And like I said, when I saw these little bits in here, it made me think of windows. And it actually made me think what a fun idea to create windows in a quilt. You know, just pretty window boxes and such. But these are another pair of beautiful quilts. It was just such an exquisite show to see and to walk through all these quilts. I know there's more pictures I haven't even tapped into, and hopefully I can get those in the future. But if you go to QuiltCon 2025 and check that out online, you'll see a lot more quilts, either on YouTube, but definitely on Instagram. So there we are. That was a great trip that I had, and I got to see some beautiful quilts and get some great ideas and bring some fabrics home with me. Oh, it was a win all the way around. So I hope you enjoyed this and got a lot of good ideas and ready to do your own quilting. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for joining me and hanging in here to the very end. There was a lot to look at here today. So have a great rest of your day. And as always, it's a pleasure. Have a great rest of your week.